Hey you guys, what's up and welcome back to Two Toe Tags and Meta Reviews, and today we're getting our final album review of the Deceivers by Dååth. So Dååth, first time covering them on the channel other than our first impressions last week, which was pretty high.
Yeah, we were
pretty
really
highly
into
regarded,
it.
really into it. You know what, after this whole week of me listening to this album, I'm just kind of dying to hear what you think about it. So I want to pass it forward to you right away, and I want to hear your thoughts on this album. Before I get into my stuff, I want to hear yours. Let's go.
Well, I'm gonna start off by taking a page out of the Book of Vile and say something about this album that reminded me of something else.
Oh.
I felt, and I don't know about you, I think you may have even mentioned this last week.
Or
I'm
maybe
not
I
sure.
planted the seed.
Maybe you planted the seed, or maybe I'm just misremembering, but some of the melodies and the more cleaner guitar tone on this album reminds me of the Black Dahlia Murder.
I do not think I said that. So
Okay.
yeah, you must have got that from something else.
Does that make sense now that you hear?
You know what? Now that you're mentioning it, no, it doesn't. But I'd have to listen to it again with that in mind to know if I make that connection or not. But thinking about it, I don't see that.
It wasn't there all the time, but think about, like, let's say the chorus from, what was it?
I don't know.
Which song was it? I have a lot of notes here. Which one? There's one song, and I guess I'll probably transition into talking about this song if I can find the note for it. Oh my gosh. Ascension, that's what it was. The chorus, like, so think of the chorus of Ascension and like the melody they play there and maybe even the guitar tone. That's a good example of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Now, on the topic of Ascension, sick track. I consistently enjoyed that one a lot. That is one that we reacted to. Here's a cool thing about this song. The first and second chorus are played differently by the drums. So first time, he's playing it fast, blast beats with double kick. Second time, it's like a straightforward groove that's like not super blistering speed or whatever. Gives you a completely different perspective on this chorus just from that alone. And when I heard that, I'm like, whoa, he's completely turning this chorus on its head by playing it that way. And then when they play the chorus out at the end of the song, it's back to the fast stuff. So I think this album is full of stuff like that, like small, little, intricate things that you kind of notice as you keep listening, like, oh, look at this cool little detail that they did. And I feel like this album is full of that. Like so many small little details of like, oh, that's a pretty cool, interesting thing. Like for example, No Rest, No End, the first track, the groove after the intro of that song, absolutely filthy. Every time I put that on, like, oh, here we go, this is awesome. During the riff right after that, it's like in the background, some kind of flute sounding instrument. And I heard it like once or twice, I'm like, what is that? That's a small little, like, another detail that I was not expecting to hear.
Yeah.
So that's another cool thing. Now, it's funny, you mentioned last week how all the guitar features totally sound like, wow, you can tell this one from that one. I was actually struggling to do that.
You know what, as the week went on, I kind of felt like they were blending in more and more. I'm not sure why my first impression was different, but yeah, I agree.
I kind of felt
as it went on.
It was kind of hard to tell, like, how could I tell that this is this guy, this is that guy? Maybe I'm not guitar brained enough to know, but I will say Per Nilsson is the one that actually felt like I could hear the influence there. That being said, I feel like this band's style on this album is kind of just generally similar to Scar Symmetry in general.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I feel like it makes sense that, you know, a band that's already kind of sounding like that, you get the guy from that band to play on the record, then it kind of just totally like fits in with what your expectation would be from his sound. But I will say that song, The Silent Foray, is another one of my favorite tracks on that album. I love the spooky stuff that happens in this song, and you're totally not ready for that.
The spooky X-Files UFO kind of stuff that's
yeah.
That's actually in a few songs, and I thought that was a kind of a reoccurring theme they had going.
Yeah, it's not the only one. It's a few. And before they go back to it, They do. Yeah, okay, I am talking about Silent Foray. They modulate like twice before the second time they go there. like per bar, and it's like, whoa, okay, that was cool. It's another small detail that I like quite a bit. But then, if I'm gonna talk about any of my issues with this album, one is that it's kind of, I wanna say it's a pacing problem, but not the one that we would usually complain about.
Oh.
I feel like with this album, everything is like super crazy and it doesn't let up, but it doesn't really give you enough breathing room. It gives you a little bit in the silent foray. That is one of the reasons why that song is so awesome, is that it takes you on this journey, it breaks up the pace, it's really cool that way. But when you have like an album that 99% of the time is just wow, like totally in your face at all times, it's hard to really latch onto a contour for it.
Yeah.
But there's tons of albums that don't let up that are paced well. A good example of that is Iowa by Slipknot. Balls to the wall from front to end, but they have tracks that break up the pace, do things differently, and kind of take you on that journey while still being this crazy album from beginning to end. So like a song like Gently, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a song like Skin Ticket. So
Okay.
I feel like that's kind of like the only issue I was really having with this record, because the songs are like average length, but it feels like they packed so much into every single one. That being said, a lot of the songs are still really good. Like the album creates a really high standard for itself, where you listen to songs and some songs are incredible. Like, oh my God, mind blower. There's something awesome in here that I can always enjoy when I listen to it. But then there are some songs where you're just like, they kind of come and go, but they're not bad songs. You can listen to that song, as I like to say, in a vacuum, and still enjoy it because it doesn't have everything else to compare to.
Yeah, I feel like that's something we do say about a lot of albums though, especially lately. Like, these albums are strong as a whole, but a lot of the songs just feel kind of just run-of-the-mill, and they're fine on their own, but when you listen to them in the context of the whole album, they kind of just blend together a little too much.
Well, I think this album kind of has that, but to like a more extensive degree, where it's like, yeah, the songs that kind of come and go are still like actually pretty strong songs. It's just they get kind of shown up by the other songs just being more exceptional than those. So like with Ill Desire is a song that kind of just like comes and goes, even though if I listened to that on its own, I'd be like, yeah, it's a solid song. But then when you've got other songs from this record that are together with it, it doesn't look as good by comparison. Another one I really liked was, which one? Deserving of the Grave. That's a pretty cool one. And they do this one small thing. It was so weird. After the first chorus, they do this riff, they slow it down for a single bar. Sounds like they go to halftime, but like not quite. And then they go back. It's just for one bar. And it's like, what was that?
They go to halftime?
It doesn't sound exactly like halftime, but close. And it's just for like a single bar. And it's like, what was that? And like, huh? I think this album's full of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just because you were just talking about it, I might as well mention it. My favorite song on the album is Deserving of the Grave, and that's featuring Jeff Loomis as well. I feel like this is the song that kept standing out to me the most, and every time it came on, I kept going, what was this? Oh, this is that song again. This is that song again. I'm like, this song just has so much stuff in it that makes it cool. Funny enough, I didn't notice what you were just mentioning, but I did notice that there are a variety of tempo changes in the song. So amongst those tempo changes is probably what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's another song that plays with the pace.
It plays and plays with the time signature too, because there's some 6/8 stuff, there's some 4/4 stuff. I don't know if it does anything too fancy other than those two, but there's one part where the snare switches from being on the upbeat to the downbeat. I like that too. There's just a lot of playful stuff going on, which makes the song very interesting. Having Jeff on there, he's one of the features that, maybe it's just because I like the song the most, but that's one of the features that stood out to me. Where I was like, okay, here comes Jeff again. Like, and I was actually curious, and I'm gonna ask you, this album, I found the guitar solos on this album were all very noodly. And that's something you criticized in the past about albums. I was wondering if you felt that way for this, or if it was something that you let slide or didn't notice it, or what?
The noodles were tasty.
You liked them?
I am critical of a lot of like overly noodly stuff, and some of them were kind of like that, but some of them I had fun with and enjoyed.
Yeah.
Maybe per Nilsson's solo I enjoyed. I like the scar symmetry noodly stuff.
Yeah.
So it feels like some of them kind of did, but some of them were good tasting noodles.
Yeah, speaking of that song, The Silent Foray, you already touched on it a bit. I didn't think it was the greatest song. It's kind of middle of the pack for me. I think Pear is good on the song. I think that this song stands out the most on the album being different because to me it sounds the most like a Scar Symmetry. Like you said, the whole album is kind of in that same vein, and I agree. But this one, to me, almost just sounds like a Scar Symmetry song with a different singer.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's kind of how it sounds to me. So with that, in that respect, it stands out. The other highlights for me were the singles we reacted to. So Hex Unending and Ascension. Both those songs are phenomenal. Really, really good stuff. Just that syncopated intro on Hex Unending is amazing. We mentioned that before. The orchestral elements are they're ingrained so perfectly. They're kind of subtle but effective in a lot of ways, but then during the chorus they emphasize them to give the hook more body, more punch, and really just hammer it home. Yeah, and I like that they have that fluctuation there.
You even have them in the intros of a lot of songs where it like builds up with this orchestra and then bam, explosion with this nasty riff.
Yeah, I mean that's something I mentioned last week that reminded me of Septic Flesh because they do that a lot.
Yeah.
That's kind of like one of their signature sounds. Another really cool thing, and this is a bit of this sucks a little bit because with Ill Desire, track number 4, it has such a sick, like it's not really a drum intro, but there's basically 2 drum rolls and a really cool drum fill that starts the song. And I thought that was awesome, but the rest of the song kept falling flat to me over and over again. And I kept listening to that song thinking there's something there. What am I missing? I should really like this song. I should have more notes about this song, but I just kept coming up empty. And unfortunately, there's a few songs like that. Unwelcomed Return, Purified by Vengeance, No Rest, No End. These songs, I think, are fine songs on their own even. But when I listened to them and I tried to isolate my focus onto them, I was having a hard time picking stuff out that stood out and that really kind of, rang to me and spoke to me. Little things here and there, Unwelcome Return, I feel like it's got some blackness to it as far as like black and orchestral black metal kind of stuff, that kind of vibe. So that was like, oh, that's pretty cool, but is it enough to make this song stand out? I mean, there's a uniqueness to it, but the song still feels kind of on this flat plateau to me, right? The intro track, I got some Trivium vibes on that one, which is not something I got previously when listening to the album. I thought, okay, I was reminded of all this black metal kind of style stuff, and now all of a sudden I'm being reminded of Trivium. I thought that was kind of cool, right? Makes it stand out a little bit. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there's 3 super solid songs, and the rest are kind of like semi-hit and miss.
So with that being said, let's rate this album. Vile, what do you give it?
Well, all things considered, I think it's a good album. I think it's, fun to listen to, but it's not a super strong album. And unfortunately, my opinion of it weakened over the week rather than strengthened. And that's a bit unfortunate because at the beginning of the week, I felt like this was definitely in toe tag territory. But as I listened more and more and more, the songs to me kind of just blended in more and they got less interesting. But I still think it's a pretty solid album. I'm gonna give it a 6.
All right, good score. For myself, I mean, I feel like the highs of this album are unbelievably high. Like when they hit, they hit. But the lows, I don't know if I can call them lows per se, because it does kind of slip a little bit in terms of some songs just don't have the spark that others do. But overall, they're still strong songs. Like they're still enjoyable. So, the album has a high standard for itself of either good to phenomenal songs. And it's got a mix of that in it. I feel like there's still a lot to take away from it, and it's such a detailed album. It's gonna get my toe tag. Ooh. So unfortunately not gonna get onto the 2 toe tag list, but still favorable scores from us. A toe tag from me and a 6 from Vile's self. And that's all we got for you guys today for this review. Remember to like this video if you liked it. Comment, tell us in the comments below, what would you rate this album? Does it compare to other Dååth releases? It's been a long time since this band has released an album.
13 years, I think?
Something like that, yeah. It's been a while. So we'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. And subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Vile Self.
We'll see you guys later.